The night my mother called me and said, "You need to come home immediately." I thought someone had died. I was wrong. Someone had been lying to me. For 18 years. I was 36 years old, a single mother, and I had spent my entire life believing that my family had abandoned me when I needed them most. I believed my father hated me. I believed my mother was too weak to defend me. I believed my older sister had always been the perfect daughter. And most importantly, I believed the little girl I gave birth to 18 years ago had died before I ever got to hold her. But that night, my mother looked me directly in the eyes and whispered, "Your daughter is alive." I couldn't breathe. Then she said something even worse. "Your family has known the entire time." And that was the moment I realized my family hadn't just betrayed me. They had stolen 18 years of my life, and I was about to take everything back. My name is Claire Morgan. For most of my life, I was the daughter nobody wanted to talk about. I grew up in a wealthy family in a small town outside Boston. My father, Richard Morgan, owned a chain of private medical clinics. My mother, Evelyn, was a respected real estate agent, and my older sister, Victoria, was the perfect child. Victoria was 4 years older than me. She had perfect grades, perfect hair, perfect friends, and according to my father, she had a perfect future. I was different. I was emotional. I asked too many questions. I never knew how to pretend everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. My father hated that about me. Whenever I disagreed with him, he would say the same thing. "Claire, you are determined to make your life difficult." I didn't understand what he meant back then, but I do now. He didn't want me to have a life. He wanted me to follow the life he had planned for me, and when I refused, my family decided I deserved to lose everything. I was 17 when I met Daniel Carter. Daniel wasn't rich. He didn't come from an important family. He worked part-time at a grocery store and dreamed of becoming a mechanic. My father hated him immediately. "You're not serious about this boy, are you?" my father asked me one night. "Yes," I said. He laughed, not because it was funny, because he believed I was stupid. "You're 17. So? So you don't know anything about love." Maybe he was right, maybe I didn't, but I knew one thing. Daniel was the first person in my life who made me feel like I mattered. When I was with him, I didn't have to compete with Victoria. I didn't have to impress my father. I didn't have to pretend. I could just be Claire. And then, at 18 years old, I found out I was pregnant. I remember sitting on the bathroom floor, staring at the pregnancy test. 2 lines. I took another test. Then another. All positive. I was terrified. But deep down, I was also happy. I was going to have a baby, my baby. I planned to tell my parents the next morning. Instead, my mother found the test first. She stood in the bathroom doorway holding it in her hand. Her face was completely white. "Who knows?" she asked. I didn't understand. "What? Who knows you're pregnant?" "Mom, Claire, answer me." I had never seen her look so scared. "Daniel knows." She closed her eyes. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she whispered, "You have to tell your father." I knew immediately that something was wrong, not because of the pregnancy, because of the way she said it, as if my baby was a disaster, as if I had committed a crime. That night, my father called me into his office. My mother was sitting beside him. Victoria was standing near the window. I knew then that this wasn't a conversation. It was a trial. My father stared at me. "You're pregnant?" I nodded. He stood up so quickly that his chair hit the wall. "Who is the father?" "Daniel," he laughed again, that horrible laugh. "You're carrying that boy's child? Dad, please, do you have any idea what you've done?" "Yes," I said. "I'm having a baby." He slapped his hand on the desk. "No, you are destroying this family." I looked at my mother. She wouldn't look at me. I looked at Victoria. She was smiling, just slightly. But I saw it, and I never forgot it. My father gave me 2 choices. I could marry Daniel immediately or I could leave the house. I chose Daniel. I packed a small suitcase that night. I was 18 years old, pregnant, terrified, and completely convinced that my family would eventually forgive me. I was wrong. Daniel and I rented a tiny apartment. It had 1 bedroom, a broken heater, and a kitchen so small that 2 people couldn't stand in it at the same time. But I loved that apartment. Because for the first time in my life it felt like home. Daniel worked 2 jobs. I worked part-time at a coffee shop. We weren't rich, but we were happy. Then, 6 months into my pregnancy, Daniel died. He was driving home from work during a snowstorm. A truck lost control. The accident happened less than 2 miles from our apartment. He was 21 years old, I was 19, and suddenly I was alone, pregnant, broke, and grieving the only person who had ever truly chosen me. My family didn't come to the funeral, not even my mother. My father sent a message through a lawyer. He said he was sorry for my loss. That's it, not come home, not we're here for you, just 4 cold words. I spent the rest of my pregnancy alone. My daughter was born on a rainy night in October. I remember everything. The hospital lights, the smell of disinfectant, the sound of nurses moving around the room, and then the cry, the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. A nurse placed the baby in my arms. She was tiny. She had dark hair and a small birthmark near her left shoulder. I looked at her face, and I whispered, "Hi, baby." I named her Lily, Lily Carter, my daughter, my entire world. I had been holding her for less than 10 minutes when my mother walked into the room. I hadn't called her. I didn't know she was coming. She stood near the door. Her face was pale. "Mom," she looked at the baby, then at me. "Claire, what are you doing here?" She didn't answer. A few minutes later, my father entered, and behind him Victoria. I remember thinking, why are they here? My father walked toward the bed. "Claire," he said. I held Lily closer. "What do you want?" He looked at the baby. Then he said, "You need to give her to us." I thought I had misunderstood him. "What? You're 19, you have no money, no husband, no stable home. I can take care of my daughter." He looked at my mother, then back at me. "Can you?" I held Lily tighter. "Yes." My father leaned closer. "You have no idea what you're doing. Get out." My mother started crying, but she didn't defend me, she just stood there. Victoria suddenly said, "Claire, stop being selfish." I looked at her. "Selfish? You're going to ruin this child's life." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My father said, "We can provide her with a proper home." "No. You can visit her." "No, Claire. No." I screamed so loudly that a nurse rushed into the room. My father stepped back. My mother began crying harder, and Victoria stared at me with a strange expression. Not sadness, not anger, fear. That was the first time I noticed it. Fear. Then, 2 days later, everything changed. I woke up after surgery feeling weak and confused. The bassinet beside my bed was empty. I pressed the nurse call button. "Where is my baby?" The nurse looked confused. "Your baby was transferred." "What? Transferred to another hospital?" "Why?" She checked the chart, then her expression changed. "I'm sorry, I thought you knew. I didn't know anything. I tried to get out of bed." The nurse stopped me. "Your family signed the paperwork." "My family? My father, my mother." "Victoria. They told the hospital I had suffered a severe emotional breakdown. They said I was unstable. They said I had agreed to let my family take temporary custody of Lily. I had agreed to nothing. I tried to call my father. He didn't answer. I called my mother. She answered once. "Where is my daughter?" There was silence. Then she said, "Claire, you need to calm down. Where is Lily? Your father is handling everything." "I want my baby." My mother began crying. And then she whispered, "I'm sorry." The call ended. I spent the next 6 months fighting. I hired a lawyer. But my father had more money, more connections, more influence. The hospital records had been changed. A social worker claimed I was emotionally unstable. My father had doctors willing to testify against me, and every time I tried to find Lily I was told the same thing. She is in a private placement. She is safe. She is being cared for. She needs stability. I never got to see her, not once. Then one morning my lawyer called me. His voice was different. "Claire, you need to sit down." I was sitting at the kitchen table. "Why?" he said. "The court has finalized the adoption." My world stopped. "What adoption?" "Your daughter has been adopted." "By who?" He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "An anonymous family." I dropped the phone, I screamed, I cried, I begged, but there was nothing I could do. My daughter was gone, and my family told me to move on, so I did, or at least I tried. I left Massachusetts. I moved to Ohio. I worked as a waitress. Then I became a receptionist. Eventually, I started my own small cleaning business. I raised myself, because no one else was going to do it. I never got married. I never had another child. I couldn't. Every time I looked at a baby, I thought of Lily. Every October, I bought a birthday cake. I would put one candle on it. Then I would sit alone and cry. I didn't know where my daughter was. I didn't know if she was happy. I didn't know if she had been loved. I didn't know if she remembered me, but I remembered her. Every day, for 18 years. My mother called occasionally, usually around Christmas. We never talked about Lily. My father never called. Victoria became a successful lawyer. She married a wealthy businessman, she had 2 children, and according to social media she lived a perfect life. I blocked her. I couldn't look at her. Then on my 36th birthday my mother called me. It was almost midnight. I almost didn't answer. Hello? There was silence. Mom? Then I heard her breathing. Claire, what happened? Are you alone? I sat up. Yes. Good. Her voice was shaking. Your father is in the hospital. I felt nothing. Is he dying? No. Then why are you calling me? My mother took a deep breath. Because you need to come home. Why? There's something you need to know. I laughed bitterly. After 18 years? Claire, please. No, you need to come. What could possibly be so important? My mother whispered, Lily is alive. I stopped breathing. The room became completely silent. What did you say? Your daughter is alive. I stood up. My hands were shaking. Where is she? My mother started crying. Claire, where is my daughter? She's here. I couldn't speak. My mother continued, she has been here for 3 years. My heart began pounding. Where? In this town. Where? Claire, where? My mother said a name. Lillian Morgan? I froze. Morgan, not Carter. Morgan, my family name. I searched the name online. A young woman appeared, 18 years old, dark hair, brown eyes, a small birthmark near her left shoulder. I stared at the screen. I couldn't breathe. I knew immediately. It was my daughter, my baby, my Lily. The girl I had been told was dead. The girl my family had stolen from me was alive, and she had been living with my sister, Victoria. I drove through the night. It took 11 hours. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I didn't stop except for gas. When I finally reached my parents' house, the sun was rising. My mother opened the door. She looked 20 years older. Where is she? My mother started crying. Claire, where is my daughter? My father was sitting in the living room. He looked weak, but when he saw me, his face became hard. Your mother shouldn't have called you. I walked toward him. You stole my daughter. He said nothing. You told me she died. Still nothing. You watched me grieve for 18 years. My mother covered her face. I turned to her. How could you? She whispered. I was afraid. Of what? My husband. I laughed. That's your excuse? No, she looked at me. I was afraid of what would happen if I told you the truth. What truth? My father stood up. Enough. I looked at him. No, for the first time in my life I wasn't afraid of him. Where is Lily? My father said. She is not your daughter anymore. I felt something inside me break. She will always be my daughter. You gave her up. I was lied to. You signed documents. I was drugged. The room went silent. My father froze. I knew. I had always known something had happened that day. After giving birth, I remembered feeling confused. Weak. My memory was missing hours. My mother looked at my father. Richard, he said nothing. I turned to him. What did you do to me? He looked away. And then my mother finally told me everything. After Lily was born, my father had hired a private doctor. The doctor gave me medication. The medication made me confused and heavily sedated. While I was unconscious, my father arranged temporary custody papers, but that wasn't the worst part. My father had discovered that Daniel had a life insurance policy, a large one, nearly $350,000. Because Daniel had been killed in a workplace-related accident, the insurance company had paid the money to Lily. The money was placed in a trust. My father became the trustee. He took control of the money. Then he created a fake adoption arrangement. The child was never adopted by an anonymous family. My father had given Lily to Victoria, my sister. Victoria couldn't have children. She had suffered multiple miscarriages, and my father believed that Lily could solve everything. He changed Lily's records. He gave her the Morgan surname. He told everyone I had abandoned her. And Victoria raised my daughter as her own. But there was more. My father had taken the insurance money. He used it to fund Victoria's first law firm. He used Lily's trust money to purchase property. My daughter had paid for the life my sister was living. I stared at my mother. Why didn't you tell me? She began sobbing. I wanted to. For 18 years. I was scared. You were her grandmother. I know. No, I shook my head. You don't know. My father finally spoke. You would have destroyed her life. I turned toward him. You destroyed mine. She had a good life. She had a good life because you stole mine. He stared at me, then he said, Victoria loves her. I laughed. Does Lily know? Silence. That was when I understood. Lily didn't know. My daughter didn't know that her mother was alive. She didn't know her aunt was actually her mother. She didn't know her grandfather had stolen her life. And she didn't know that her biological mother had spent 18 years believing she was dead. I looked at my mother. Where is Victoria? She is at work. Call her. My father stepped forward. Claire, listen to me. No, you can't just walk into her life. She is my daughter. You have no legal rights. I smiled for the first time that morning. Yes, I pulled a folder from my bag. My lawyer has been waiting for me to confirm something. My father stared at the folder. I opened it. Inside were documents. Birth records, medical records, insurance records, bank statements, and something else. A copy of the original hospital report. The report stated that I had never signed adoption papers. My signature had been forged. The doctor who had sedated me had lost his medical license years later, and the private investigator I hired had found the original evidence. My father had made one mistake. He had trusted money more than paperwork, and I had spent 18 years learning how to survive. I found Lily at a coffee shop. I didn't approach her immediately. I sat across the street and watched her through the window. She was laughing with a friend. She looked happy. She looked exactly like me. The same way she tilted her head when she laughed. The same way she touched her hair when she was nervous. I wanted to run inside. I wanted to scream, "I'm your mother." But I didn't. I knew I had to be careful. I had lost 18 years. I wasn't going to destroy her life in one afternoon, so I contacted a family therapist. I contacted my lawyer, and I sent Victoria one message. "We need to talk." She replied 5 minutes later. "Stay away from my daughter." I stared at those words, my daughter, not Lily, not your daughter, my daughter, I replied. "Then tell her the truth." She called me immediately. "Claire, please." I answered, "You have 24 hours. What are you talking about? Tell Lily who I am. She's my daughter. No, she is mine. She doesn't know you, because you stole her." Victoria began crying. "I saved her. You stole her. She was going to be raised by strangers. She had a mother. You were 19. I was her mother. You had nothing. I had love." Victoria was silent. Then she said, "You don't understand." "No, I understand perfectly. What do you want?" I looked through the window at Lily. "I want the truth," Victoria said. "If you tell her, you will destroy her." I replied, "No." I paused. "You destroyed her." The next morning, Victoria told Lily everything. I wasn't there. I didn't want to be. I waited outside the house for 3 hours. Then Lily walked out. She looked like she had been crying. She saw me and stopped. I didn't move. Neither did she. Finally, she asked, "Are you Claire?" I nodded. "Are you my mother?" My heart broke. "Yes." She looked away. I wanted to hug her, but I didn't. I said, "You don't have to call me Mom." She looked at me. "You're my mother." "Yes." "Why did you give me away?" "I didn't." She frowned. "Everyone said you did. They lied." "Why?" I looked at the house behind her. "Because my family thought they knew what was best for everyone." She started crying. I stepped closer. "I am sorry." "For what?" "For missing your first steps." She began crying harder. "For your birthdays." She covered her face. "For every moment I should have been there." She whispered. "Why didn't you find me?" I said, "I tried." And for the first time in 18 years, I told my daughter the truth. I told her about Daniel. I told her about the hospital. I told her about the adoption papers. I told her that I had never abandoned her. And I showed her the evidence. She read everything. Then she asked, "What happens now?" I said, "That is your choice." She looked at me. "You're not going to force me to live with you?" "No." "Why?" "Because I spent 18 years having choices taken away from me." I touched her hand. "I will never do that to you." Lily stared at me for a long time. Then she whispered, "Can I see where you live?" I smiled. "Yes." And that was how my relationship with my daughter began. Not with a dramatic hug, not with an instant happy ending, but with a question, and the truth. My father thought the truth would disappear. He was wrong. My lawyer filed a lawsuit, not only for custody rights but for financial fraud. The insurance money had been stolen. Lily's trust had been illegally accessed. The adoption documents had been forged, and the hospital records had been manipulated. The doctor who helped my father was already dead, but the hospital still had archived records. The nurse who had been on duty the night Lily was born was still alive, and she remembered me. She remembered me screaming, "Where is my baby?" She remembered my father standing beside the hospital administrator. She remembered being told not to speak to me. That nurse became one of the most important witnesses in the case. Then came the financial records. My father had used Lily's money to purchase 3 properties. He had transferred money to Victoria. He had paid lawyers to keep me away. He had even paid a private investigator to monitor me after I left Massachusetts. For 18 years, my family had known where I was. They knew my address. They knew I worked in Ohio. They knew I had started a business. They knew every birthday I spent alone. They could have told me the truth at any moment. But they chose not to. That was the part that hurt the most. Not the money, not the house, not the legal battle. The birthdays. My mother had known where I was. She knew I cried every October. She knew I believed my daughter was dead, and she said nothing. The court case lasted almost 2 years. During that time, Lily lived between houses. She spent time with me. She spent time with Victoria. It was complicated, painful, messy, but slowly she began to understand. One day she asked me, "Why didn't you fight harder?" I was sitting in my kitchen. I looked at her. "I did." "But you stopped." "I was 19. She became quiet. I continued. "Your grandfather had money, lawyers, doctors, and connections. I had nothing." She looked down. "I'm sorry." I smiled. "You don't have to be sorry." "I feel like my whole life is a lie." I took her hand. "Your whole life isn't a lie." "What isn't?" "Your memories." "Even the memories with Victoria?" "Yes." "Even though she lied?" I thought about it. "Yes." "Why?" "Because love can be real even when people do terrible things." Lily stared at me. I continued. "But real love doesn't give someone the right to steal the truth." That sentence stayed with her, and eventually it stayed with me too. The court ruled in my favor. My father was ordered to return every dollar taken from Lily's trust. The properties were sold. The money was placed back into her account. Victoria lost her law license after the court discovered that she had knowingly used forged documents. My father lost his business. His reputation disappeared. And my mother, she was left alone. For years, I thought revenge meant destroying them. I thought revenge meant making them feel the same pain I felt. But when the moment finally came, I realized something. They had already destroyed themselves. My father had lost everything because he believed money could control people. Victoria lost everything because she believed she deserved what belonged to someone else. My mother lost everything because she was too afraid to stand up for the truth. I didn't need to destroy them. I only needed to stop protecting them. That was my revenge. I told the truth, and I let the truth do the rest. 3 years after I found Lily, I received a letter from my father. He was in a nursing home. He had suffered a stroke. The letter was only 2 pages. He apologized. He said he had made mistakes. He said he believed he was protecting the family. He said he regretted what he had done. I read the letter twice. Then I put it away. I didn't forgive him, not immediately, maybe not ever, but I stopped allowing him to live inside my head. My mother passed away a year later. Before she died, she asked to see me. I went. She looked small, fragile, nothing like the woman I remembered. She held my hand. "I was a coward," she said. I didn't disagree. "I should have protected you." "Yes," she started crying. "I am sorry." I looked at her. For 18 years I had imagined this moment. I imagined screaming. I imagined walking away. I imagined telling her I hated her. But when I saw her, I felt tired. Not angry, just tired. I said, "I needed you." She cried harder. "I know." "No," I shook my head. "You don't know." She looked at me. "I needed you when I was pregnant." "I know." "I needed you when Daniel died." "I know." "I needed you when they took Lily." My mother covered her face. "And you weren't there," she whispered. "I was afraid." I stood up. "I know." Then I left, not because I hated her, because I finally understood something. Sometimes closure isn't forgiveness. Sometimes closure is simply accepting that the person who should have protected you was never strong enough to do it. Today, Lily is 23. She is studying psychology. She says she wants to help children who grow up in complicated families. Sometimes I wonder if that is because of what happened to her. Sometimes I wonder if she will always feel divided between the family who raised her and the mother who lost her. But she tells me not to worry. She says, "You didn't lose me." I ask her, "What do you mean?" She smiles. "You found me." I still keep the birthday cakes. Every October I buy one. But now, there are 2 candles, one for the little girl I lost, and one for the woman she became. Last year, Lily came to my house on her birthday. She brought a small box. Inside was a photograph. It was a picture of me holding her in the hospital. The picture had been taken only minutes after she was born. I had never seen it before. I stared at it. Then I looked at Lily. "Where did you find this?" She said, "My grandfather had it." I couldn't speak. For 18 years, I thought no one had remembered that moment. But someone had. My father had kept the photograph. The man who stole my daughter had kept the first picture of us together. I asked Lily, "Why did you give this to me?" She smiled. "Because it's yours." I started crying. She hugged me, and for the first time, I held my daughter without fear that someone would take her away. My family hid the truth from me for 18 years. They thought they could erase me. They thought money could replace a mother. They thought lies could become reality if they were repeated long enough. But they were wrong, because the truth has a way of surviving. Sometimes it survives in hospital records. Sometimes it survives in old photographs. Sometimes it survives in the memory of a nurse. And sometimes it survives in the heart of a mother who never stopped loving her child. I lost 18 years with my daughter. I will never get them back, but I finally learned something. The people who betray you may steal your time, they may steal your money, they may even steal your family, but they cannot steal the truth forever. And when the truth finally comes out, you don't always need revenge. Sometimes the truth itself is the revenge.